G'day, this is Brian Medway, and I want to talk to you about a really important subject. It actually has to do with this. This is my way of talking about this generation and next generation. And I'll do it by way of telling a story. The last few years I've been travelling backwards and forwards to Korea, hanging out with Korean church leaders and especially young leaders. And as you know, Korea has had this amazing time during the latter part of the last century where maybe at the beginning of last century, of the 20th century, the number of believers was around 5% or less. And then during the latter part of the last century, through some amazing sacrificial faith and persistence of many heroes of the faith there, they saw the church begin to grow, and as we all know, Korea actually has the largest church in the world, which is Yonggi-cho's church with 0.75 million or something. But the issue really is interesting because as of now, if you take the percentage of the population over 50, nearly 50% of those people will belong to a church. About half Catholic and half Protestant. So that's pretty amazing, over 50. The number of people who belong to a church under 25 is 3%. 3%. In other words, they've lost a generation, or they're in danger of losing a generation unless something amazing happens. And if you go to Korea, Seoul especially, 10 million or 12 million people, there are just thousands of churches there, but most of them have no youth ministry. Now, I'm not talking about youth ministry at this time. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the restoration of a relationship. You can see from this that what I'm talking about here is the heart inside of a this generation person and the heart inside of a next generation person. Now, this generation, next generation is relative to where you are, and I'm the next generation to a generation, and there is a next generation from me and the next generation from that. And so I'm not here to quibble about how we define this in those terms. Here I'm just talking about the generational relationship, because in Korea the generational relationship lasted, in terms of the great advances that were made during the latter part of the last century. That was made by, as I said, genuine heroes. And the people who followed them were willing to work with them and all that kind of stuff. But it produced this massive cultural issue in Korea, because in Korea that's a very hierarchical situation, and so the successful leaders were treated with incredible importance. And so it was basically, we do it their way because theirs is the success story. And then we just need to do what they do and all that kind of stuff. And we all know that nothing transposes automatically from one generation to another. And the heart of this generation person, as is touched by God, as they become obedient to God and so forth, is one thing. The heart of a next generation person is not the same. They live in a different culture, they operate, they see things differently and so forth. It's not a matter of better or worse. It's not even a matter of competing. It's not a matter of just hang around here studying till I die and then you can take over. It's actually the heart of this generation person realising that they need to invest in a certain way so that next generation people will have space and support, so that whatever God has placed in their hearts genuinely can find a welcome, can find affirmation, can find a place to make their mistakes, can find a place where they're believed in, can find a place where they're allowed to develop their own ministry in their own way, make their own mistakes. See, because I've heard this all the time. Every parent always wishes they can save their kids from making the same mistakes that they did. But it's a bit of a furphy, really. That's an Australian word, I think. It's a bit of a false idea, because you can learn from another generation, but there's no way you're going to avoid the trials of experience and the mistake making and so forth on your way to becoming wise and wonderful. So, look at me, I'm wise and wonderful. So the way that I become wise and wonderful is going to be different. And I can sit here at 69 and say all kinds of things out of 50 years experience, but that's not going to actually help somebody walk a journey except if I recognise what that journey is for them, how they're walking it, how God is involved in that, what we can discover about the purposes of God, what's inside of them, how to foster that and help that to grow and develop. It's the environment that's created. And so this is all about a heart environment, And that's what I want to, in these series of little talks, that's what I want to talk about. God bless you.